Mrs. Richards? That's right. Can I come in? Thank you. Cosy in here anyway.
Yeah.
It's
It's a bit rough.
I gather that Mrs. Johnson has been writing to us on your behalf as well as hers.
Yes, she has, yes. We were very much obliged to her because we've been in very great difficulties up here.
Well, I can understand that, certainly. I think, you know what the corporation have been doing from what you've seen, and
yes.
I hope you can understand our problem in this.
There's just one question I should like to ask you. Are we safe here? Are they going to leave us alone or what?
Would you like to move?
Yes, but it's between the now and the then that everybody is concerned about. I mean, undoubtedly, when the new town is finished, it'll be marvellous and everything. But it's it's obviously not 20 years, it's the 10 years between Madeley as it is and Madeley as it will be that people are worried about. I mean, it's a terrific change.
It's a great part of your life. I mean, 10 years.
Yes.
You're going to live through a lot of this thing going on. And, I mean, they wouldn't mind walking into a new town.
Yeah.
The average wage round here isn't enough for all the facilities they're going to bring in. I mean, what's £15 a week to keep a family on when the rents are so high?
From Shropshire, the 30 miles to the big city seems a long, long way. But Dawley is essential to Birmingham's future, to the huge business of coping with expanding population and shrinking space. 3 isolated industrial villages meeting the first blast of change.
I believe if this thing was properly planned, we could attract people, in small numbers albeit, from all over the world to come to this place to see the seat of the Industrial Revolution, centred as it is in a beautiful setting and within a new town area.
This place was the earliest mass iron-producing area in the country. In 1709, a man called Abraham Darby discovered a new way of making iron, using coke as fuel instead of charcoal. In the wake of this revolution, the floating labour of Wales and Ireland moved in. This was Boom Town, 1760.
(1776). These works are supposed to be the greatest in England. The whole process is here gone through, from digging the ironstone to making it into cannons, pipes and cylinders. All the iron used is raised in the neighbouring hills and the coal dug likewise. Mr. Darby, in his works, employs nearly 1,000 people, including colliers. The noise of the forges is immense, and the mills and engines with all their vast machinery, the flames bursting from the furnaces with the burning of the coal and the smoke of the lime kilns, are altogether sublime. 1822. Demand is much lessened in this county by the depressed state of our staple manufacture, iron. The large and populous district, extending over the coalfields of Staffordshire and Shropshire, was one vast mouth which used to consume our agricultural production. From the prevailing distress in the ironworks, that mouth is shut, or at least only half open.
By 1860, the boom was over. The Welsh and Irish moved on eastwards into Birmingham and the Black Country.
1860. Birmingham population 290,000. 1960, 1,100,000.
By 1960, there were too many Brummies. They were invited to go back. Joe Hurst, 34 years old, once a corporal in the Welsh Guards, a long-distance lorry driver, now a salvage operative with the Birmingham Salvage Department. Married, with 2 children, Brenda, 11, Leslie, 7. They live in a new maisonette on a new estate in the middle of Birmingham. They're moving to Dawley. If they move, another slum house can be knocked down. Another family can move into 43 John Ash House, Lee Bank.
Well, that's what I've got it wired up, that's what I said. We'll do the whole Okay. I'll get the chair. Yeah, I'll give Bill hand.
By 1981, Dawley will have built more than 12,000 dwellings. But by 1981, Birmingham must have found at least 52,000 dwellings outside the city.
Drag them well up the front, son. Drag them well up the front.
Yeah.
Oh, there's tools in that one as well.
You making a cup of tea, love, please? No, we ain't got to wait till Dawley. Wait, round to your left. That's my left, isn't it? That's your left.
How good is this, George?
1968, 35,000 slum houses in Birmingham. By 1981, there will be another 500,000 people demanding living space in the Birmingham area. Quote, Neville Borge, City Engineer of Birmingham. One thing is quite clear, that it is very much easier to move an employee and his family to a new house in a new place than it is to move his small share of the country's employment. The degree to which this is overcome will determine for the Midlands the rate of slum clearance and the possibility of containing and improving twilight areas.
You got the door keys?
Yes. Right.
That's it, yeah.
The window's shut. Hello.
Report by A.G. Shepherd Fiddler, February 1962. In spite of the severe effects of the Industrial Revolution which are apparent throughout the area, coupled with some poor post-war development, much of the area around Dawley is very attractive. It is, in my view, a splendid situation for a new town with many advantages. Special problems arise over most of the area because of mining activities since the end of the 18th century.
Who were killed by the unhooking of the chains as they were ascending the shaft of the Leasow Croston pit in this parish, the end of their day's labour on Tuesday, the 27th of September, 1864. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains. The earth with her bars was about me for ever. Yet hast thou brought up my life from corruption, O Lord my God. And the ages, you can see, range from about 55, the oldest, to 12, the youngest, which is your age.
There was no cages in the pits in them days, you know. They'd used to sit in what they call the doubles. Used to sit in them, an old tight, you know, 8 at a time. But there was extra one on, that was the last one, and they didn't want to leave one behind, they brought him up. And when they got almost to the top of the pit, you know, the doubles was hanging on the point of the hook. And it slipped off and away they went to the bottom.
The development of the area will be a stimulating and challenging piece of work, and imaginative design qualities of a high order will be required in the architects and planners called upon to carry it out.
Dawley Development Corporation. Mr. Hammond.
1963, Dawley Development Corporation set up to run the new town. Headquarters, Priorslee Hall, once the office home of a coal and ironworks magnate.
Happily persuaded the corporation that this was the place to come. We're only half a mile, the length of our drive, away from our designated area. We were out of our own planning way, and they make, I think you'll agree, very nice offices indeed.
An independent command in a new town is a high prize in the field of local government. In Dawley, the top official, the general manager, was formerly a deputy clerk with Lancashire County Council. Appointed here in 1963, Robert Penryn Owen.
I think teamwork is the essence of the success of New Town, so that all professions, law, finance, architects, engineers, social relations, in our case, estates, all their thinking can be brought into all our proposals, and it's looked at from all aspects. As general manager, I hold chief officers' meetings very regularly, and we then decide between us what matters might go to the corporation for their consideration and we like to put recommendations for them, which they can accept or not, as they wish. The members of the corporation are part-time, appointed by the minister, and they decide policy, and the matters for them to consider are brought forward at their monthly meetings or twice-a-month meetings on agendas. The duties of a new town and the corporation is very simple. We have to develop a new town, as simple as that.
Chairman for the past 5 years, Sir Reginald Pearson, ex-deputy chairman of Vauxhall Motors. He resigned from here at the end of last year, but continued to preside. He's now been succeeded by Sir Frank Price, leader of the Labour group in Birmingham and a former Lord Mayor. The long wait for a decision was unfortunate for Dawley. The deputy chairman, Teg Bowen, resigned in March in protest at ministry handling of the situation. Many people thought he would succeed. He's also an ex-Lord Mayor of Birmingham with long experience in city and administrative affairs. The board is the built-in democratic factor. It should have 7 other members. 5 have been appointed. Only 3 were able to attend this February meeting. Viscount Boyne, farmer, owner of 9,000 acres of Shropshire, about the same size as the Dawley Newtown area. Isaiah Jones, chairman of Wellington Rural District Council, retired pit worker and owner. He's the member local people feel is most in touch with their needs and interests. Mrs. Martin Wilson, wife of former County Secretary for Education, prominent in women's activities in Shropshire.
To raise these points that are outlined by Councillor Jones.
It depends entirely what is meant by this corporation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this corporation may not exist.
There was always uncertainty about the future, a great deal to be done in the present. The sheer complexity and size of the operation in a new town means that an under-strength and non-technical board may become just rubber stamps.
We approve the proposal.
Agreed.
Yeah. Item 25, you gave me permission to accept the lowest tender, which when they came I did do. It just wants your confirmation.
Right.
Agreed?
Yep.
The working machinery is based firmly on the hierarchy and traditions of local government. 6 chief officers, salaries about $4,500 a year, supervise work in social relations, architecture, estates, engineering, finance and law. The attempt to maintain an integrated team has been jeopardized by insecurity and what many regard as excessive ministry guidance. This has led to internal friction, a high turnover in subsidiary staff. Despite this, a vigorous building program is underway and a scale of community provision unique so far in new towns. But the history of the project is one of delay and setback, and this dominates the public view. October 1945, the Reith Commission final report
suggesting guiding principles on which new towns should be established and developed as self-contained and balanced communities for work and living.
1961,
Birmingham City architect A.G. Shepherd Fiddler carries out investigation of Dawley site for Ministry of Housing and Local Government.
January 1963,
area designated as the 18th new town. Proposed population 70,000.
July 1963,
J.H.D. Maiden appointed consultant planner for new town.
January 1965,
master plan presented. This points out need to plan also for Wellington and Oakengates north of the A5.
December 1965,
first setback. Minister of Housing stops Dawley development. Wellington and Oakengates now to be included.
June 1966.
Second setback. Large engineering firm proposes move to Dawley. Board of Trade delay. Firm builds in development area.
November 1966.
Consultants' proposals published for Dawley, Wellington, Oakengates. Proposed population 200,000. Quote, we estimate that up to 15,000 new industrial jobs will have to be brought into the area.
March 1967.
Third setback. Rail lines serving Dawley not to be electrified. 1 express to London per day. Fourth setback. No major road links to Dawley complete before early 1970s.
April, May, June.
No ministry action on Maiden's report.
November 1967.
Minister agrees that Wellington and Oakengates should go ahead with Dawley. Maiden must now do master plan for whole area.
November 1967.
Fifth setback. Minister also agrees Birmingham's proposal to accommodate 50,000 commuters in North Worcestershire.
In October 1945, the Reith Committee said,
"New towns that are to be developed as self-contained and balanced communities are the antithesis of the dormitory suburb."
Yeah, there's your new home, but it's covered in mud.
Welcome to our new home. Lovely, isn't it?
There's your first letter.
I bet it's a bill.
I bet it's in because I've told nobody where I've gone. Happiness in your new home. All best of luck, Doc, Charles and Pablo.
Oh, yes.
I love you too, mate.
I have to carry two.
That's the corner you want covered in? That'll be the corner. I want Golden to be down here and the crust here, and then we incinerate and burn the rubbish at the back.
Joe, tell us why you moved to Dawley in the first place, will you?
Yeah, to get away from the rat race of Birmingham.
Well, there's lots of
there's a lot of reasons.
We put it all together and that's we've arrived here. You know.
Tell us about the reasons then.
It takes a lot of consideration. And up till now, I'm here now. And I'm happier now. You know, all the while from when we got the house, I was worried, you know, am I doing the right thing? But now I know it's too late. I've accepted the fact, you know, and I think I have done the right. Well, I hope I've done the right thing anyway.
We're here at the beginning. We'll see it all taking place. It's not sort of all done for us to move here. We've got to grow up with it. And I think that's half of the excitement in it, is being part of it. We're sort of pioneers, aren't we? There's no saying whether this town's going to make a go of it or not, but we're here to do our little bit to see if it does, and hope it does. Nothing will make me go back to Birmingham now.
All new towns have faced the dangers of an unbalance between finding industry and building houses. At Dawley, it's perhaps the board's main concern. The kingpin in the operation is Gould, the Chief Estates Officer, responsible for stimulating new population, attracting industry, assessing and allocating shops. The job is enormously complicated by the economic situation, by the attitudes ruling in the exporting areas, the pull of other, more favourably placed new towns, by lack of industrial information, and the traditional extreme wariness and reticence of industrialists.
Can you give me some idea of the sort of process?
Not really at this stage.
Well, light industrial, is it within that sort of broad category?
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah. No, as far as you can say, no particular effluent or smoke problem or anything like that?
In fact, it would be clean.
Fine.
Yes.
Good. Well, let me say right away that we can certainly offer you a site of 15 acres.
An industrialist is looking for certain things. He's looking for good sites, good communications, good work people, and good conditions for his work people. And he wants to be absolutely assured that these are coming along at the time when they're needed.
Approach anybody when they're coming in.
The reception will look after.
Oh, you'll have a reception?
Yes.
I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. I was on this scheme. I had
I
doubled
know.
with somebody in the office.
No.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
The situation is that industry is not coming along at anything like the rate needed to keep a balance with our present housing programme. We have to decide whether we should go on and build speculative factories, our experience being in the main that with the factories ready we have been able to let them. if we wait for the industrialists to come along, inevitably we're going to slip further and further behind, as I see it. Certainly, the early London new towns did experience reluctance on the part of industry to move, but I think we've reached a stage where our housing programme is geared up now to really go, and if something doesn't happen in a big way regarding industry very quickly, then there's going to be an awfully big gap.
Blimey, there's a lot of houses empty still, isn't there?
This one.
This is a 4-bedroom, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Look at the roof.
this tile's broke already.
They're all the same though, aren't they?
Yeah.
The same style interior.
Are they bright though?
This is what I like, you know, when you can just walk
Yeah.
around like
We
this.
haven't crossed the road yet, have we?
No.
Oh, he's one of them courtyards with the trees and everything. We ain't got these by our back end finished there yet, is it?
No.
And these are painted red and all. Oh, they meant the same as our houses though, are they?
The whole block, isn't it?
Yeah. Look at the paintwork they got to do on them. Christ, they got some maintenance on these runs. Les, don't climb the fence. You'll get all white all over you. Look at them, look how rough that is and all.
What?
Just look.
Oh, what do you think of it?
Oh, it's lovely.
You know,
curly.
Yes, it was so nice.
we moved in yesterday, you know, and
Yeah.
just having a nose around.
Yes, we
Did you?
Yeah.
Hertz vans, was it?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right, yeah.
How
Yes.
far did you move from?
Wolverhampton.
Oh, we come from Birmingham.
Come from Birmingham.
Yeah.
Do you, are you working here or?
No, Wolverhampton.
At
At Wolverhampton. How long did it take you to get there?
Well, 35 minutes if I just boot along,
In the car lot?
Can do it quicker if you need.
Because at the moment he's travelling to Birmingham
You're
to
going to
work,
travel
you
to
know.
Birmingham.
I will do.
Well, he's travelling to Wolverhampton until there's, you know,
Until I can get something
until
up
there's
there.
something,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
at the moment.
Which comes first, you see, the houses or the factory? You get the factory there first, you've nowhere for the people to live. They're all travelling. Well, that's a bad thing. If you build the houses first, then they've no work to go to, and they're all travelling in the reverse direction. So it's a question of very, very careful phasing to get this to work right.
With Dawley and Madeley being so small and so little industry here, you need your own transport to go around looking for a job in the first place. I mean, if the prospects are good enough in Birmingham, and I've got no intention of packing up and going back. I'm here now, I'm here to stay, whatever the consequence. I'll sooner go road sweeping.
You probably will.
Then throw it in altogether. I'll be starting back on Monday and I'll travel to and from Birmingham then. If it come to the worst, I'd carry on travelling.
Communications, a prime factor in the reluctance of industry to set up in Dawley. Except for the Roman road, Watling Street, width almost unchanged for 2,000 years, communication with Black Country and Birmingham by tortuous side roads. It is from Birmingham that population and industrial jobs must come.
City of Birmingham, population 1,160,000. Main industrial lines, craftwork in metal manufacturing, rubber, car assembly, metal fabrication. 72% of Birmingham's industries employ fewer than 25 workers. 4% of Birmingham's firms employ 64% of the labour force.
The big ones are generally too big and the small too small and too closely interconnected to move, and subsidies only go to firms moving to development areas. In serving the ratepayer, the rulers of Birmingham defend their rateable values and their 19th century image.
The Birmingham Post, Friday, December the 1st, 1967. It would be stupid for Birmingham to sacrifice its own prosperity in an attempt to build up the resources in a depressed area many miles away. The Lord Mayor of Birmingham, Alderman James S. Meadows, said last night. It would result in the mere swapping of one depressed area for another, and surely this would give little advantage to our economy. Birmingham Evening Mail, January the 3rd, 1968. Conservative Party Leader, Alderman Griffin. Birmingham and the Black Country should be regarded as the proper preserve of industry and zoned as such. I prefer to attract an industrialist rather than induce him to go by threats or planning refusals. We have said in Birmingham for a long time that commuting should not be regarded as the dirty word planners think it is.
From 1960 to 1965, 10,000 jobs a year moved to the new towns. In the next 10 years, new towns need 22,500 jobs a year to survive. One way to achieve this is to limit industrial redevelopment within the cities. Such a positive planning policy, encouraging firms to move to new towns, exists in London. In Birmingham, more traditional methods continue, and in Dawley they suffer.
Yeah, take this Newtown Corporation. When I arrived 3.5 years ago, almost to a man, we were new to Newtown's work. We weren't bringing experience from other new towns. The chief architect was new to Newtown's work, the general manager, the chief legal officer, the estate officer was from Newtown, and the finance officer was from Newtown. He was not from a new town, the deputy chief architect was not from Newtown, I was not from a new town, there was no deputy chief engineer. Where was the expertise that was being brought from other new towns? Where was the experience from other new towns that was being grown upon? There was none of it.
Wouldn't one have thought there is a need for a central kind of documentation where all this information is brought forward? How much quicker would any new town, or say 10 years' time, how much quicker and how much more effective would they be if they had the comprehensive experience of other new towns?
Yes,
available?
but the link man here should in fact be the ministry, because they know they have a feedback because of their close control from all of the new towns.
Yes, I've often
which
said
so
this.
far been designated.
If you look back, over 15 years, new towns over 15 years, there should have been an awful lot that we've learnt, that we should have learnt during the time. Yet the only way this feedback is transmitted, into the new towns is when people like you and Joe and everybody move around and carry it with them.
In other words, we're talking about, the collation of national research and work. That this would be very useful in documentary form, even if it's in sort of series of volumes and pullouts, for the people who are actually working on the board, who want to know what has been done elsewhere, the various methods that are done. Not at chief officer level, or even at principal level, people who are actually turning the work out in detail.
Aren't we only demonstrating though a national failing, really? Isn't this a British thing that you never really spend any money on research at all? It's only in the new industries like sort of aeroplane design, this kind of thing, where there's any significant amount of the total amount of money spent actually spent on research. I mean, it's a naughty word as far as new towns are concerned, isn't it, really?
And what they're going to give us, we'll have to make out of what they provide. I mean, if they provide the buildings, well, the individuals can make something out of that. But until they put them up and get the thing going, you can't do anything, can you?
The corporation's done nothing really to sell this new town. All that's been is, there's a new town coming, that's it, you've got to accept it. They haven't raised any enthusiasm about it at all.
Well, they haven't known what's happening themselves, I don't think.
Well, that's very bad, isn't it?
No. Well,
they're the corporation,
corporation.
they should know what's going on.
They've just dropped into a lot of bad luck, haven't they? What with all the government,
It's all very well, it's all bad luck, but it's like trying to build a new town with your eyes closed. You can't get very far like
They've
that.
only been able to carry on with Madeley up until now, until the Triple Town's been announced. We all know that. So how can you possibly have a new town sold to you when they don't even know themselves where the new town is going to be? Well, it's bad,
Well,
isn't it? I mean, it's a terrible
Why
state
waste
of
money
affairs.
on selling a new town when there's no new town to sell until now?
Well, it's been in the offing for about 7 years. I mean, this is why everybody's so violently anti-Newtown.
Well, I don't think people are anti-Newtown. Everybody wants...
They are, yes, they are.
No, they're not. Everybody wants improvement. The relations between the Dawley Development Corporation and the people of Madeley are terrible. I think Dawley Development Corporation could have done much more to sell the idea of a new town to the people in Madeley.
Let us not break faith with any of yesterday's promises, nor leave unrepaired any of yesterday's wrongs. Show us what we can do to make this town a better place to live in, and grant that as we prepare for the challenge of tomorrow, that in our speech and our action, we may be part of the answer and not part of the problem. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. The Lord's Prayer.
Dawley Urban District Council, who share power with the Development Corporation. Chairman, Fred Bostock, ex-railwayman from South Wales.
Their job and ours are completely different. They are authority responsible for the building of the new town in the designated area. We are a local authority distinctly with interests on behalf of the people of the area. That's the difference between the corporation and the local authority. We concerned ourselves about people. We have delegated powers and responsibilities for the existing population. We are the only people that have delegated a responsibility in that way. They haven't, in that respect, other than building a new town. Rebuilding the designated area can only be done successfully with complete cooperation with the local authority, who have responsibilities and have interests themselves.
Friction between local councils and development corporations is a fact of life in new towns. It might be eased by a systematic review of past experience. But many people consider there's been no political development at all on Reith's original concepts. Unity is scarcely possible. The county council controls principal roads, education, some planning control. The Severn River Board the river, the Dawley Council health and local authority housing, the Development Corporation drainage, in addition to their normal powers. Every 2 months, council and corporation meet. For one side, it seems a confrontation with the enemy. For the other, a formal exercise in necessary diplomacy.
That's rather difficult.
Well,
you're in a better position than me. You happen to be chairman of the board, not only chairman of one committee. It makes it
well, I'll put the challenge to my good friend, the chairman of the council.
The democratic system as practiced in ordinary local government in this country isn't perhaps reconcilable with the form of administrative procedure which we have to carry out under the New Towns Act. I think we have to accept that in building a new town you simply have to cut the corners somewhat, and for that purpose it's essential to have a streamlined organisation which doesn't have to go through cumbersome committee procedures. I think the real test is in the results, trying to retain the full democratic process on the one hand, as shown in a local authority, and at the same time to get a development corporation to do its job properly, is asking too much. They ought to have decided to do one thing or the other. The obvious thing to have done would have been to literally modify the functions of the local authority for a definite period, shall we say 15 or 20 years.
We, on behalf of the people that we represent in that area, think that this is a step in the right direction, and this brings about that unity of purpose that should be between the corporation and the council.
We did have a look at the school. The school was reasonably safe. There were no cracks anywhere in it.
Would it mean, in fact, that the embankment across the valley for this road to get to this roundabout location would have to be carried up through this housing area as well?
But this is what I hope to give, and this is what I'd like to give, the 16'6", if not more.
This one? Oh, fine. Do you think we ought to call Trevor over?
That's the sort of thing that, well, they haven't sort of divided them off yet, but, you know, there's definitely no 3 bedrooms.
I'm sorry, he's not in at the moment. Can you call after lunch?
We don't know definitely when these incidents occurred, and it depends on when they occurred, who the contractor was at that time, you see.
I think you have got this problem of what to do with that piece of ground there.
Buildings could appear in isolation in that spot, couldn't they?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm going to suggest to the authorities that we've got a preferred minimum and an absolute minimum. In other words, that these dimensions down here is what we'd like to give them. And in certain circumstances, we shall...
To most, this is a government-sponsored armoured division rolling through their lives. Even for people traditionally subject to powerful landlords, it's a new and frightening aspect of authority. For planners, building a new town is complicated and frustrating. Success seems to depend on surmounting endless administrative and human barriers. It's hardly surprising that in the end, the individual outside feels he hasn't been properly consulted in the process.
Yes, and this is one of the great difficulties in planning at all. The statutory position is that the Development Corporation must consult the actually elected public authorities. And again, one is in some difficulty because if you do too much consultation outside the properly elected authority, you can get a feeling by the elected authority that you are disregarding them. This is a very real difficulty. You know, one is a bit caught both ways. And I think it's particularly difficult in an area like this, which in some ways is fairly remote from modern life, from the urban city, if you like. I mean, one of the problems I've always felt at Dorley is that here we are building a new town where we're going to bring in the mobile, modern, progressive, forward-looking industrial population of the great cities. Now, these sort of youngish people will be moving into an area which bears many of the marks of the 19th century. So I think we're going to get, quite inevitably, a very great difference of behaviour between the existing population and the new population. Our problem at the moment is to relate to each of these groups separately, which is what I'm trying to do.
Yes, totally. There you are, look. That's what they used to put it in, see. Cannibals cook it in there. They do. Look at this. What is it, 17 what?
Leslie, wait till you fall.
Stood up well, ain't it, to its age?
Yeah.
Eh?
1779.
This was made in that dock. The parts for this bridge were made in that factory.
Yeah.
That museum that we went in.
Part of it.
All these steel parts, yeah.
Too.
And the rigging underneath of it was.
Oh, yeah.
Ironbridge, heart of the historic industrial area. It's old communities like this that reveal most clearly the flaws in the planning structure. Treasury limits on imagination, blurred responsibilities, lack of communication.
What I would have said was that there'd not been enough imagination displayed. Now, I don't just mean imagination in terms of imagining new buildings or blocks, but I mean imagination as an extension of human sympathy. What is it like to be somebody who's lived in Ironbridge for 30 years and now finds his shop is to be closed and he must have a new one at our rental? What is it like to have lived by the river for so long and then suddenly told that this house you may not have, we're going to move you up to this place or that place or the other? I'm not saying that people don't have to be moved, but I am saying that there's a great case for human sympathy.
Look, Dad. Oh, it's got the name here. That was further. And erected in the year...
MDGGLX. Oh, I don't know. A long time ago, that means, doesn't it? Yeah, you watch you don't kill the fish before I start fishing. And you see the way they've got wedges in the steel?
Yeah.
It's an enclave, it's enclosed by the hills, and I think there's always a suspicion of anything new coming in from outside. On the other hand, there are many people who are prepared to look for change and who wanted a new start, a new future.
Let me go and some sound quicker.
You should be able to run up here.
I can.
I would say that in one way, poor old Abraham Darby has some responsibility, or the Darby family, in that for so long the valley depended upon them. They were Quakers, there was a paternalistic notion, and they had, in fact, to hold of their hands and say, please, Abraham, may we have this? And on the whole, it was given to them. And it's true that their almost fatalistic acceptance of all sorts of things, it seems to me, comes in part from this. On the other hand, I would have thought it incumbent on an authority deciding to rearrange the lives of people to make sure that those people knew what the channels of communication were. Even though this may have been a great trouble, it may have taken time to convince people that you can speak to us in this way. But that's far better than having people who feel apathetic yet angry.
No suggestion was ever put forward at any time what could be done with Ironbridge until these gentlemen came along, and then all of a sudden...
Abraham Darby School, Coalbrookdale. A meeting to discuss the proposals put forward by the Development Corporation for the treatment of the Ironbridge Gorge and Coalbrookdale. Population 2,500, present here at least 250.
Now, first of all, if I could underline what the General Manager has just said, that this is not something of a planning dogma. We have been very concerned, in fact, that we haven't laid down some stringent and preconceived idea for Ironbridge. This would be absolutely impossible and quite impracticable.
The first basic requirement is a sewerage works and a good sewerage disposal plan. And before anything can happen, we must have that. Now, when is that likely to take place?
The crude sewage goes straight into the river. There just is not a proper sewage system in this area at all. And those are facts which everyone has to face.
Had Mr. Penryn Owen taken a look at either the wharfage or even just outside down the road here and seen the road flooded?
The River Authority is still responsibility for treating the river and dealing with floods. Just because we're appointed, we don't take over those massive responsibilities.
What exactly do you mean by encouraged? Pushed, told, or what?
All industry in the area will now be, as from now, non-conforming use.
Why have we all got to conform? Surely the new town is for the people, not the people for the new town.
Well, we come back to the same basic problem, you see, of cost. Now, if you believe this, we must have done at least a dozen exercises on how we thought Ironbridge could emerge as a plan. And in the end, you've got to be conditioned, you see, by the reality of the situation. And what we've done...
Communication between planners and planned is not getting simpler, but more complicated. In the original Dawley New Town, there were 3 large villages. In the enlarged area, 2 complete towns as well. Soon, in Northamptonshire, a city of 250,000. In central Lancashire, 500,000. The ideas get bigger and people's share in them smaller.
Now, to you it may be derelict property, but to these people it is their home.
They've looked, it seems to me, at a number of the material things. They've obviously looked at the buildings, and they've pondered about their great roads and so forth, and their sewage. But nobody's apprehended the quality of life as it is or was here. And I don't see how you can start to plan until you've done that.
But I love this place. And I don't really want to belong to a place that is just, really, somebody else's playground. And I wonder whether any thought has been given to the sort of life we are going to live in Ironbridge. My question to you...
Clifford Stanley, headmaster, the Abraham Darby Comprehensive School, and a member of one of the corporation's small committees.
Well, I'm not quite sure, ladies and gentlemen, exactly what Mr. Stanley is getting at. What I think underlies his question is the fact that Ironbridge and Coalbrookdale are part of what is quite likely to be a city. And this, I think, one must accept.
They may not be able to express what they want in terms which would satisfy an architect. So what it calls for, it seems to me, is once again going back to this imaginative leap which you've got to make, which the architect ought to make, or the planner ought to make. As far as this business of suspecting that all the people are prepared just to accept what you give to them or are too weak-minded to make up their own minds, this comes, doesn't it, from a long authoritarian tradition. What you're seeing now, it seems to me, is the fruits of the sort of educational system and the social system we've had for a long, long time. But onto this has been grafted, superficially, it seems to me, a political democracy. And it's not surprising that it's never worked very well, and it's working now perhaps more feebly than ever.
Yeah. You're going to sit over there, are you? Is that all right? And now, Mrs. Hurst, you've just arrived on Sutton Hill.
That's right, yes.
I have to ask you certain questions so that we, know something about you,
yes.
and then I'll tell you something about the school. Now, your full name will be...
Brenda Ann.
Is that Anne with an E?
No.
Just A-N-N.
And is it H-I-R-S-T? And the date of birth? Mrs. Hurst?
8956.
8956. Now, Brenda, can you tell me something about your previous school? We have to ask you a few questions. You were at?
Lee Bank.
L-E-A?
Yeah.
Bank.
Now, L-double-A.
L-double-E Bank. Whereabouts is that in Birmingham?
Gough Road.
And where's Gough Road? I worked in Birmingham for 5 years. This is why I'm interested. If you're trying to do something in a school which is a community and you're trying to rebuild or build a better society, you're up against the effects of that damn society that's already existing just outside the gates. And I think what a head's got to try and do is to put a little bubble skin, if he can, round his place and say, well, I'll try and do something inside this area, and when it's ready, it'll perhaps burst out of the bubble and then affect the rest. But I don't think education's quite as much contained in books as people used to like to think. It's got very much to do with encouraging the nerve ends to become a little bit more sensitive. If he's pursued a sensible course of drama, he'll understand something of the mechanisms of human nature.
Your job, but why would you in particular be worried about that? Is there anything that might mean you would going to lose this job? Is it because you've been in an accident and you can't work very well?
Oh, get on with your work, it's nothing. You're not used to it, you haven't been down here before. What's that?
Now those people who were on the surface.
The drama teacher can have no preconceived notion of what he's going to extract in that lesson or what value is going to come out of it. He must follow what comes out of his pupils. Now, the architects haven't yet learned this. They seem to think that there is a body of received knowledge which has the quality of a magic tablet, just as teachers thought it had, which can stand outside a person and just be handed on like that. What they don't realize is that much of the knowledge that's valuable is contained inside people, in the form of experience, or wisdom, or wit, and cannot stand separately as a book on a shelf.
The nature of growth and change in a new town demands a breaking down of barriers between local and immigrant, between the old authority and the new, between one set of beliefs and another. This is the only way for a new town, in a human sense, to succeed, and planners alone cannot make it happen. We have to be willing to accept the challenge.
Quote, by 1981, there will be 750,000 more people in the West Midlands, 18 million more in Britain. With the new towns now projected, there must be 450,000 families willing to move out of the cities in the next 15 years. And there must be houses for them to go to and jobs to support them.
Look here, I'm going to propose a toast to these two pioneers. I hope that everything turns out better, if anything, than what it was in the old place. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Now, 3 months later, the family have been joined in Dawley by most of those who were at this housewarming. Joe Hurst has been elected chairman of the Residents' Association at Sutton Hill, and he's found a local job, driving a lorry for a brewery. For the Hursts anyway, this is going to be a splendid place to live.
But eventually, with the amount of people that will be moving out here, they'll have to move some industry. They'll have to give them a grant.
Yeah.
Because Wilson was on about deploying the labour to where the industry was. Now he's got to deploy the industry to where the labour's going to be. I mean, that stands to reason.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm taking a chance on.